That was a buffalo.
So the strange thing about this video is there's quite a large gap between the Dakotas and then blam, all of a sudden I'm at the Great Lake, and that's because I ran into a small problem. Somehow my memory card on my camera got corrupted, so all of the data that it recorded for the eastern portion of the Dakotas and Minnesota is unusable. And that's okay, because it's mostly me walking around Fargo quoting,
"You gotta eat your eggs, Margie."
"Oh yeah, you betcha." Anyway, we'll continue on. Roll the footage. There's nobody there. Going crazy up at the lake. So this is camp for the next couple of nights. I'm in Chippewa National Forest in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I just finished cleaning up from dinner. It's set up a little differently than other states. I had to purchase a recreation passport, which was $34 because I'm a non-resident of the state of Michigan. I understand I don't pay taxes here, so ended up reserving campsites the last few nights. Got to the campsites and then they were like, oh, also, I know you got a $30 campsite, because all they had were electrical hookup sites for RVs, and that really kind of seemed like who was out at these spots. But anyway, they were like, yeah, you also owe us $34 for a recreation passport. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever, paid it. But the state parks in Michigan are not what I'm used to. It kind of seems like, how many people can we cram into a clearing? No privacy, you know, you got an RV parked 10 feet away from the Jeep. So I didn't do a whole lot of filming. Michigan people are weird. Man, I got out of the Jeep the first night, pulled into camp, got out, waved, said, hey, how y'all doing? To my neighbors, and they just stared at me. And I was like, all right, well, I'll go about my business then. At the next state park, same thing, man. And then the only guy at a camp that ended up coming and talking to me, you know, was very polite, kind of a grandfather, I think, with his 2 grandchildren, was like, oh, I love your rig. He was like, is this your picnic table? And I was like, well, I couldn't really tell because the campsites were so close together and the way they had them numbered with the posts. So I ended up just parking the Jeep right next to the post number, which is 64. I was parked right next to it. I was parked like on my side, but I was just like really close to their picnic table and he wanted me to move. So that's the only reason somebody is, you know, come and talk to me. I don't know. Where I'm from, if you say hi, you usually say hi back. And that's, I guess, culturally not what they do here. So Michigan, yeah, whatever, man. I don't know if that's just the Upper Peninsula, but I don't know, it just seems like everybody wants to be left alone. So, Michigan, kind of weird. Just kind of a weird vibe, I don't know. Maybe they think I'm weird because I'm from Texas. Last jaunt here has been pretty epic. Just seeing Lake Superior. I mean, I knew like before I got there that it's massive, you know. I knew you couldn't see the other side of it. It seems like just a tiny ocean. This trip has been pretty great. I'm getting a little worn out, so my plan is to go to Gettysburg, get my little dose of history, hit the Appalachians, head south. I've just kind of been figuring it out as I go. I'm just trying to enjoy the time that I have out here, and I think I'm learning a lot on this trip about playing with the cards you're dealt. That kind of translates over to life in a way, so, you know, I'm trying to take stuff away from experiences that I'm having on this adventure. And I mean, you don't have to be driving around the country in your souped up camping mobile to be on an adventure. We're all on an adventure of some kind. I think just some people's adventures are a lot lamer than others, so I'm kidding. No. We're all on an adventure of some kind, so just don't screw it up. Don't get eaten by a bear. I think I'm going to turn off the camera for this evening and enjoy this fire a little bit. I will see you guys in the morning. Or if anything eventful happens in the night, I'll see you in the middle of the night. Kind of hoping that doesn't happen.
The weather turned ugly, so I ended up getting a hotel just outside of Detroit. And it got cold, y'all. Real cold. And driving through Detroit, I'm not gonna lie, it is as bad as you would expect. So I did my best not to dawdle, and I quickly made my way through Detroit to my destination that I had been planning on going to. I did find some interesting stuff along the way and some safer areas, and I decided to get out and take a few quick videos. But there were a lot of areas that I went through where I was not going to get out of the car or hold a camera while I drove by. So finally I made it to where I was going, and this is on the side of the former Ford factory. It's located right next to the new Ford factory. It's the Henry Ford Museum, and it's a really cool old building. I'm not exactly sure what it was originally built for. I didn't get a chance to ask anybody, and I didn't see any information at the museum while I was there, but it seems like some old convention hall. I'm not sure if this was the old Ford offices, but it was just a really cool old building, and very ornate. You know, they don't build it like that anymore. That's the thing you always hear, but I mean, you can look at it and really tell that somebody took some time and paid attention to what they were doing when they built this building. Also, with it being just cold and rainy outside, it really seemed like just a perfect day to go to a museum and just kind of relax. And everybody wore masks. It was not that many people there, but everybody that was there really kept their distance and maintained that 6-foot distance. So I felt pretty comfortable going into this place because it was huge. There was plenty of space for people to steer clear of each other. From the final days of the stagecoach to the very first electric-powered car, and moving forward to the very first combustion engine automobile, this is the timeline of vehicle travel. Right here we have the greatest vehicle ever created, the Willys Jeep. It defeated Hitler, so as we all know, it is the greatest vehicle of all time. And yes, I did wear a Jeep hat into the Henry Ford Museum. This was the Mustang 1 concept car built in 1962. This 1965 Ford Mustang convertible has to live out the rest of its days parked next to this 1986 Ford Taurus. This was John D. Rockefeller's steam-powered automobile. And I thought the lights were huge on my Jeep, but check out the size of these cans. The 1967 Ford GT40 Mark IV J7 that Mario Andretti and Bruce McLaren drove at Le Mans. Here's a timeline of presidential cars. Ronald Reagan's is first in line. Over here we have the infamous Kennedy presidential limousine that was driven on that fateful day in Dallas. This car would have been used by Dwight D. Eisenhower and Harry S. Truman. Next we have the Sunshine Special that Franklin Delano Roosevelt rode in, and this vehicle is massive. Lastly, we have Theodore Roosevelt's presidential carriage, and it is so cool to know that Teddy Roosevelt rode in this. But it wasn't just cars at the museum, they also had planes. The Wright brothers' plane that they used at Kitty Hawk for the very first manned flight in history. Spirit of St. Louis, the plane that made the very first transatlantic flight performed by Charles Lindbergh. the 1601 Allegheny class steam engine, one of the last ones to be built in 1948. And on the left we have one of the very first steam locomotives built before the Civil War. And looking at the difference, I mean, they're actual carriages with metal wheels. It's crazy to see how far the technology came, and the camera does not do justice. The train on the right is huge, and look at the ones on the left. This is the second one, but pre-Civil War, of course, and that Chesapeake, Ohio train is still going. Now this is around the Civil War area. This looks a little bit more familiar to us, but what in Sam Hill? This is something you don't see every day. This is a giant snowplow that would be pushed ahead of a steam engine. This was used in the Pacific Northwest to clear tracks of snow and debris every winter. It was in service from 1923 till 1990. But it wasn't just planes, trains, and automobiles that this museum has to offer. There are also science experiments and things to challenge your brain. There's an entire mathematics section. One side of the museum is just farming equipment that's been used throughout the last century. They even have the Dymaxon house, which was billed as the house of the future. After the war, it was made with aircraft material. There's an entire section of power generators and engines that have been used throughout history to produce power. You could literally spend at least a couple days walking through this museum, trying to read all of the plaques and gathering all the information that they have to offer. There is so much to see at this place. They even have this entire shoe cobbler shop that they put in the museum. So, if you're ever in the area, I would highly recommend going to check out the Henry Ford Museum. There is so much to see there. I will say though, Henry Ford was not the best guy, and he was a pretty major opponent to organized labor, and he was a notorious racist. But don't take my word for it. I would urge you to go out and do your own research on the subject. Just go open your phone or any device you have, go to a search engine, and I would type in something like, I don't know, Henry Ford rubber plantation, South America, and draw your own conclusions about the guy. But regardless of the man, his museum is pretty cool, and it is amazing to see all of those technological marvels that happened here in the United States. So this is where I'm going to end this week's video, and I've been having a lot of fun making these along the way. If you're enjoying them as much as I am, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it as many thumbs downs as you possibly can. And if you have any suggestions on places I should go and check out, leave that down in the comments. My plan is to head east, so if there's anything that you know of along the way, I would definitely love to hear about it. If you want to come along for the rest of the ride, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you all down the trail.